So our guest today is Kayla Bailey, and she's the Communications and Project Manager on the Ontario Building and Construction Tradeswomen Project. But more interestingly, she is a journeyman steam fitter, gas fitter, and welder with the United Association Local 46 in Toronto. And she's a proud and vocal trade unionist who has served in many roles within her local union, including elected shop steward, youth committee chairwoman, and convention delegate. And when she's not working, Kayla enjoys making art, exploring new music, and playing Dungeons and Dragons with her friends. So welcome, Kayla. It's great to talk to you.
Oh, thank you, John. I'm really excited to be here today.
The obvious question to get this started, I guess, is can you just tell us about your journey into becoming a tradeswoman? What were you doing before this, and how did you make the transition?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started young. I wish I could say that I came straight out of high school, but I fell into the common trap of just having television in high school and just applied to university without much of a second thought. Everyone I knew was going to university, and so I applied as well. And it was actually the summer in between graduating high school and starting university that I took a trip up with my mom to a mining town called Red Lake. It's way up far north in Ontario. It took us like 2 days to drive up there. And it was just meant to be a little bit of a vacation for me while my mom was working. My mom's a tradeswoman. And when we were up there, I really, I think it was the first time I really considered being in the trades. We met a lot of people that she was up there teaching, actually. We met a lot of people from that small town, lots of people that worked in the mines, electricians, steam fitters, the whole works. And I just love the camaraderie of the entire crew together. And I didn't really know construction could be like that and that the trades could be like that. And it really changed my perspective. And when we were driving back, I told my mom, I said, well, I think I might want to be a tradeswoman. And luckily, when we got back, it was just in time to unenroll from U of T and get my deposit back and reinvested that right away into a private careers college. I didn't know what trade I wanted to be. I knew that I didn't want to be the same trade as all my family. But other than that, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I actually spent a lot of time Googling, and welding just really appealed to me. So I ended up enrolling in a private careers college in Scarborough for welding.
Well, and I think you kind of anticipated part of my question is that your mother was a tradesperson, so that's quite interesting. And so you probably had a little bit of a head start in the sense of being a female going into the trade. You'd already seen it in your own life.
Yeah, and you know what? The truth is that it wasn't always good. I definitely have some memories younger, seeing my mom coming home from work, upset, crying. So I'll be honest, I think I actually had a few more barriers in front of me than someone whose mom isn't a tradeswoman, because I had the full perspective of what it could be like and in ways what it was like. But I think the flip side of that is that when things were difficult for me, I could always call my mom and didn't really have to explain things too much because she just understood, right, the way things are. And
sure,
that support was really helpful for me.
So you mentioned that you enrolled in a private training school. Can you just tell us a little bit about that, how you got into the program and then sort of the path that took you to getting your ticket?
Yeah, absolutely. So I enrolled in a private careers college called Institute of Technical Trades, I think, ITT. They're right down there on Borden Avenue. At the time, I was moved out. I was living on my own on the Danforth, so it wasn't too far away. And it wasn't hard by any means. I mean, if you got the money, they'll accept you. And I think I paid at the time around 11 grand. And the program was, I think it was around 5 or 6 months. And it was really interesting. The moment I got my hand on the stick, I just loved welding. It wasn't until I graduated, though, and I started to try to find jobs. And, for context, I didn't know anything about unions or construction or anything like that. None of my family at the time was unionized, so I didn't really have that perspective. And when I started looking for jobs after getting into the program, everything was $16 an hour, $17 an hour, working in fabrication shops. And I had dreams and goals in life, and $16, $17 an hour just wasn't cutting it at the time. And this would have been back in 2014, 2015. And being on Warden Avenue, I actually ended up, driving past Local 46, and they're just up there on Warden and Eglinton. And I noticed that on their sign, it said plumbers, steam fitters, and welders. And I thought, well, you know what? Let's go take a look.
Yeah.
And I did walk in right off the street and asked if, I could become a welder in the union. And, I was told, no, we don't take welders off the street. But I was determined once I got a taste of what it was like in there. You walk into these union facilities, they're beautiful. Training centers are as big as a mall. And I just knew that's where I wanted to be. So I was very persistent. I just showed up every day until they offered me to join a pre-apprenticeship program for steam fitting. And I'll tell you, I didn't even know what a steam fitter was, but I knew that it was unionized. I knew that it was in construction, and I knew that it had a lot of, a lot of applicable uses alongside welding. So I said yes. And then I went home and I Googled what a steam fitter was. And 2 weeks later, I started in the program, and I believe that was about a 7 or 8 month pre-apprenticeship program. Learned a lot, got my basic, got quite a lot of tickets, and from there, I started working and, stayed working until I finished my apprenticeship, and then afterwards as well.
So just backing up a touch, you went to a commercial school, but that did not guarantee you entry into the profession. So it was you that had to make that happen. Is that changing at all now with the shortage of skilled tradespeople? Is it any different today, you think, than it was 6 or 7 years ago when you did it?
It definitely depends. I think when we're talking about, areas like London and Ottawa, I think it's a little bit easier to get into those locals, just, off the street with no experience. But truth of the matter is, in where I'm from, in Toronto, there's a lot of people that want to get into the union. So you've really got to be a top applicant. And my stint in private careers, I don't want to bash it, because it did allow me to really know that that's what I wanted. I don't think if I had done it, I would have fought as hard to get into the union, because really I wouldn't have known that I liked it so much. But yeah, my training there didn't really count for anything other than the fact that it told them that I was serious. So when I finally did get the interview, it took a couple of months of showing up every day. That's what they told me. They said, well, this is basically useless, except for it tells us that you're really interested. So, I don't want to bash it, because I wouldn't be where I was or where I am today without it. And again, it was it was a great learning opportunity for sure.
Now, you may not be able to answer this, but I mean, the profession that you are in, I happen to know is the gold standard in construction. I recall from my days, the welders made more money than anybody. They made more money sometimes than the boss. But I guess my question is, do you think those barriers that you experienced are the same for other trades? Or is it because welding is such a prestige area in the building trades?
Well, again, I didn't get into the union as a welder. I got into the union as a steam fitter, so it was a little bit easier. I know at the time they were having a bit of a hard time getting people to want to be fitters. And again, it's because, unless you've worked in construction, most people don't know what a steam fitter is. But for a profession like plumbing, where, anyone that lives in a building knows what a plumber is, those trades have always been in high demand. And so it is a little bit more competitive, but I definitely suggest that to people all the time. When I talk to young folks and they're looking to get into the trades, the top three are always electrician, plumber, and carpenter. And I have a theory about this, and I think it's just because, even if you're not involved in the trades at all, everyone knows about those trades. You live in a building, you probably know about those trades. But there's so many trades that are fulfilling careers and that are in demand and have good compensation, that if they're unionized. So, I always tell people, you want to be an electrician, there's nothing wrong with that. You want to be a plumber, nothing wrong with that. But check out the options, because there's a lot of trades out there where there's a really high demand for apprentices, but there's no one applying. So, that's my advice on that.
Now that the government and even some unions are making a push specifically to get women into trades, are there jobs for them? If they say, hey, I like that, I'd like to do it, are they going to run into the kind of barriers you ran into?
You know what? I think the answer to both is yes. I mean, they are going to get jobs, but they are going to face barriers as well. And it's kind of I do try to tell women when they're getting into the trades about that. It's like you have to be good at the job, but there's a lot of emotional labor that goes into changing attitudes and beliefs. And I'm going to tell you, I've worked with a lot of people where they didn't think that I belonged on a job site. It didn't matter that I was raised on a farm. It doesn't matter that I'm 6 feet tall. It doesn't matter that I'm good at my job. I've had a lot of people tell me, like girls don't belong on construction sites. But really, I think it's all about just not internalizing that and, being good at your craft, showing up every day, working hard. And you know what? Personally for me, I thought one of the most satisfying things, in my whole career has been when I do change people's minds. I show up to the job and they don't like that there's a girl there, and then by the end of it, we're best buddies, and we're friends. So I tell people, yeah, there's going to be barriers. I'm not going to lie to you. There's a lot of barriers, and they're always going to be different, and they're going to come from some people that really are supposed to have your back, but you can work hard, and you can definitely push past those for sure.
I guess the other issue that women might be asking about, or at least thinking about, and maybe not asking, but what about the physical demands of the job, slugging and all that? What would you say if somebody to someone who asks you about that?
Yeah. Well, I'll say the same thing to them that I'll say to any man that's looking to get into the trades. You might have to go to the gym to get stronger. Like I said earlier, I grew up on a farm, so I already considered myself pretty strong when I entered the trades, but even I had to start going to the gym every morning. And when you got to show up to the job site at 5:30, there was probably the 2 first years of my apprenticeship, I was waking up every morning at 3 a.m. so that I could go to the gym before going to work. And it took some time to gain muscle. But the thing is most men that are first year apprentices, they walk into the job site and they're going to look vastly different when they're second or third year, and after they've been, as you say, slugging things around. So I tell women, I tell them the same things I'd tell men. You know what? You might have to go to the gym and get stronger. But it's not really something I worry about, because really it's the same boat for everyone, and everyone, has to get used to the physical demands. And again, it's one of the easiest things that you can fix. Just showing up to work every day and working hard. I mean, you're going to build muscle.
Can you just describe what you do as a steam fitter? What do you do as a gas fitter? Like, what is the actual thing you do on a daily basis when you're doing that work?
Yeah, well, that's a good thing about, I guess, working in ICI construction. It's different every day, but, as a gas fitter, I work on piping that carries fuels. And that as a steam fitter, I work on usually black steel that can be carrying anything. It can be a fluid. It can be gas used for process heating. Yeah, it depends. So I primarily do a lot of gas when I'm at work, and it's a little bit of steam fitting, a little bit of gas fitting. Those tickets go hand in hand really well, but it can be anything from cutting the pipe, putting the pipe up, putting up hangers, working with a welder. I mean, that's one of my favorite things to do when I get to have a welder with me. And then you've got to cut the pipe, you've got to bevel it, you've got to fit it for them, you've got to sometimes you got to babysit your welder a little bit because it could be a little temperamental, but that's the fun of the job, right?
You've given a lot of advice, but just to wrap this up, just talk a little bit about what sort of advice you'd give a young woman that's hearing this and thinking that maybe she'd like to give it a try.
You know what? I would say that if you're even considering it, you got to go for it, because there's a lot of people that hear about the trades and they shy away immediately. So if you're even considering it, you probably got the stuff to do it. So find a pre-apprenticeship program, find a union, start your apprenticeship. And what I would mostly say is just find a high quality apprenticeship, and you're gonna love your trade. It's like anything. I love being a steam fitter, but I really truly think that if I had have gotten into another trade, I would have loved it just as much. Because when you invest time and knowledge, and you invest time and you gain this knowledge about a trade and you become good at it, it's so satisfying and fulfilling. So I would tell a young woman, if she's listening, or even a young man, if you want to get into construction, go for it. And you're going to change you're going to change minds, you're going to change attitudes, you're going to change beliefs, and you are the change, right? So know that the industry is not perfect, but it is getting better, and there's definitely a place for you.
Kayla Bailey, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Oh, thank you, Joe.